Let's give it up for the band real quick. Can we do that? Very thankful for them, especially my man Josh, who is getting married. Katie is also getting married. Woo! Job, Kirtley. That's a very enthusiastic fist pump that you gave. There you go, much better. He's very happy about that, Katie. I know, we talked. So, yeah, well, I mean, I feel like if he asked, it means he's excited. But hope everybody's good tonight. We have, I guess we're still in February. Yeah? So, we are in week 4 of our When Worlds Collide, or Kingdoms Collide series. And this has been something for me, it's honestly been great just for me, going through the whole studying and then preparing process, because it is something that no matter where you're at in life, no matter what stage you're at, no matter the level of Christian that you are, there's something for everybody in it, because we all can be better about standing by our convictions and then how we do that just through this process. So we have one more week of it. So next week we're going to finish this up, and then we're going to move on. So I am excited for tonight's message, but before I do so, I would like to honor both my wife and my father, who are both here. Cass, yeah. Cass is actually, and I think there's an announcement later, but she's actually speaking at the Guts Girls event next Monday. What? No. Not that kind of announcement. No. We're pregnant in our hearts. Is that what we're supposed to say for adoption? We're pregnant? That's weird. I don't like it. Yeah, we're going to ignore that. Sorry I said that. We can start recording now. No, but so she's speaking next Monday, and I'm very happy that she's doing that. While that is happening, so fellas, now is the opportunity for you to get out ahead of it and find a babysitter, because next Monday we also have our men's book study at 7:30, and we're going to be meeting in the Kennedy building, which is in between 2nd and 3rd, I think, or 3rd and 4th in Boston. So we have reserved one of the boardrooms there, and that's where we will be. We'll be meeting. We'll be going over chapters 1 through 7 of Own the Moment. So make sure that you get on Audible real quick and listen to those, and join us for that. So if you need any more information, Harold King is your man. You can text him, and he can get you that info. So, like I said, this is week 4 of this When Kingdoms Collide. And it's been cool just to, A, go through the life of Daniel, but then B, I think that when we think of Daniel, we think of, the lion's den in that one moment. But yet he proved that from start to finish that he was a man after God's own heart, that it was such an example for us moving forward. And it is a book in the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is a type and shadow. So it's taking it as that. It's an example of what that is, or of life. And to me, that's what the book of Daniel is for us. It's just an example of how to be better. And it's cool for me, too, that in 2019, it feels like it's more relevant than ever for us in 2019 in the climate that we live in, where, and we've talked about it in previous weeks, but there's an us versus them, and there's you either have to be on this side or this side, and you can't be friends or you have to outwardly disagree and hate this person that's on the other side of that. And we live in that moment, but yet that is not how we are supposed to, how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to be, that we operate out of a place of love while still holding on to our convictions. And, you know, it's hard because that was one of the questions coming in to this series was, man, how do you stand by what you believe but not completely turn everybody else off or not pit yourself up against somebody else because they think differently? And this has been an awesome series for that. So we're going to continue along, and I've titled this message, The Writing on the Wall. The Writing on the Wall. So we're going to be talking tonight out of Daniel 5, and specifically Daniel 5. And it is it's a time where years jump in between the chapters. And during this time, Daniel, they assume that he is around 80 years old. So he has lived life and has proven himself time and time again in who he is, the fact that he had deep convictions and that he loved people well. He's proven at 80 years old that he, while a captive, that he didn't just survive, but he flourished in his society and in his world while still being a man after God's own heart. So in this moment, and last week we talked about King Nebuchadnezzar. He died 20 years earlier before this. And it had gone to where Babylon at one point was, it was, you weren't able to overthrow it or you weren't able to break through the walls. They had set up their defenses so well that they weren't even worried about people attacking because there was no chance of that happening. But yet, Daniel then, or earlier it was prophesied in 1 Samuel, it was prophesied that Babylon would be taken, and then 150 years later was. And at this moment, it's the climate is very shaky because there is now fear that they've never had before of being attacked. And there's just a tension in the time. So during this time, Belshazzar is sitting on the throne, and they had been attacked. It was a city that was fortified with multiple layers of walls. They went down to the detail of they had enough food to last everyone in the city 20 years. So they could be attacked for 20 years and never be cut off from food. So they had set up that wasn't even a thought, and then they came in, and that's where we'll pick it up. So Belshazzar thought the city was safe and felt safe in that. So he called in 1,000 of his leaders for a party. So here in chapter 5, we're going to find that Belshazzar is just like Nebuchadnezzar in the fact that he is proud and he's blind to the things going on. And I think a lot of the times we could feel like we're the king at this time, like we are successful, so we then take the credit for that we are good at things, so then we think that we're proud, we have a pride about ourselves, and then we become blind to what actually can happen. So this is a very prophetic picture that we've all heard about, and it's the writing on the wall. Daniel 5, I'm going to read 1 through 7, verses 1 through 7. Many years later, King Belshazzar gave a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. While Belshazzar was drinking the wine, he gave orders to bring in the gold and silver cups from his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. He wanted to drink from them with his nobles, his wives, and his concubines. So they brought these gold cups taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly, they saw the fingers of a human hand writing on the plaster wall of the king's palace. near the lampstand. The king himself saw the hand as it wrote, and his face turned pale with fright. His knees knocked together in fear, and his legs gave way beneath him. The king shouted for the enchanters, the astrologers, and fortune tellers to be brought before him. He said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever can read this writing, tell me what it means. Or anybody who can read this writing and tell me what it means will be dressed in purple robe, royal honor, and will have a golden chain placed around his neck. He will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom. So taking it back to week 1 of this series, it feels like it's a copy and paste of King Nebuchadnezzar in this moment, that he was very set in his ways. He was very proud. He worshiped idols, and God was not even in his thought process. So we've all heard before that you can read the writing on the wall. And most of the time when someone says, well, look at the writing on the wall, it's never good. It's always bad. It's always doom and gloom. And this is where that phrase comes from. What's interesting is in this moment, as a hand, first off, like, I get his reaction. Like, we're all hanging out, we're eating, we're drinking, we're hanging out, and then all of a sudden a hand appears and starts writing on a wall. I'm out. Like, that's not for me. I don't watch scary movies. I know people love horror movies. I'm not that guy. I enjoy sleep, and our room is dark, and my mind runs when anything is placed in there. So I'm not a scary movie guy in any way, shape, or form. I won't even watch them on the TV. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, because I feel like we're amongst friends and family here. I try to, I pass it off as being spiritual. In all reality, I'm just scared. I don't like it. Like The Ring, nope. Charleston will have her hair cut constantly until she is older. But no, even commercials will come on, or trailers. And I'm like, whoa, turn it. No, we're not letting that in to my heart, because I don't enjoy that at all. That's just a little tidbit, and I just feel like I need to be honest with you guys. So if you need to, you can use that in your own circles, because then you're the really spiritual guy, not the fact that you get genuinely scared at horror movies that are not real in any way, shape, or form. It's just not, that's not for me. So what's interesting about this, though, is just like this saying, read the writing on the wall, King Belshazzar is the only person in the room who can't read what is being written. He saw the hand, and it frightened him, but he could not read or could not see the words that it was actually writing. So it's just like now, where when we speak or when we say that saying, oh, look at the writing on the wall, when it comes, they can't see that. Because when you're in too close to something, or you're in the midst of something, it's hard to see past whatever you're facing. So when in this moment that he could see the hand writing on the wall, but could not see what was actually being written. Verses 8 through 12. But when all the king's wise men came in, none of them could read the writing or tell him what it meant. So the king grew even more alarmed, and his face turned pale. His nobles, too, were shaken. But the queen mother heard what was happening. She hurried to the banquet hall. She said to Belshazzar, "Long live the king. Don't be so pale and frightened. There is a man in your kingdom who has within him the spirit of the holy gods. During Nebuchadnezzar's reign, this man was found to have insight, understanding, and wisdom like that of the gods. Your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, made him chief over all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers of Babylon. This man Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar, had exceptional had exceptional ability and is filled with divine knowledge and understanding. He can interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means. To me, this little segment is all about I looked at it as all about the legacy that Daniel left. The legacy that went before him, or the reputation that went before him, and the legacy that he had in Babylon was that he had knowledge and understanding, and he was the only one who had this understanding. So the description that she gave of Daniel is very telling. The queen is Belshazzar's mother, which is likely to be Nebuchadnezzar's daughter. So she saw firsthand what Daniel had done and the power that he had. So here Daniel was in his 80s, and he was getting called out again to be used. What we realize is that Daniel was a man who had convictions and loved well and never wavered on that. He knew what he knew. He stood by what he knew to be true, and he loved well. He had given his life, his entire life, to God. What he did with his life, because he gave it to God, was unbelievable. I mean, there's an entire book in the Bible about him. That what would our lives look like if we truly gave God control, if we truly yielded our lives to God? Because when it comes down to it, we're coming into a time where we have to stand by what we believe. And it's rarely, if ever, the popular choice. Because it's made to seem like it's based out of a place of judgment. But in all reality, we're supposed to act in a place of love. You can love someone and not condone what they're doing. That is possible. You cannot agree with someone and love them still, which doesn't feel like that's the case a lot of the time. But in all reality, love always wins, and God is in control. God is still in control of your destiny. God's still in control of the call on your life. God's still in control of it all. All it takes is for us to yield our lives to Him. As I read this, I wrote down just a few questions. One of them is, what can God do with your life if you gave it to Him? And then another one is, how do you want people to describe you when you're gone? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember you by when you're gone? To me, how the queen explains who Daniel is, that's something I would be okay with. That someone would have said that he loved God and he stood strong, that he lived by his convictions but yet loved well. Here's what's interesting is he was a man who was loved and respected while opposing almost everything that was happening. And opposed everyone that was in power, but yet he still had the respect and the honor from them because of how he stood by his convictions and how he loved out of those convictions. She said of Daniel that he brought light and understanding and wisdom into every situation, that he was able to explain mysteries and solve riddles and anything that the king needed in understanding. He went to his people first, both of them, in both stories, went to his people first, and then they fell short. But Daniel was able to come in and be the man of God that he was called to be. Your reputation is the trail you leave behind you. So what does that trail look like? I think now, as with most of the people in here being in a stage of life that we're in, we still have time to change that. What you leave behind you in the wake that you've left might not be a positive one, but yet that can change from here moving forward. that who you have been does not have to be who you are going to be. That you truly can make that decision to stand by your convictions, to know what you know and stand by them, but still operate in a place of love. We've talked, Cass and I have talked quite a bit about like what we want to be known as. So for us, from the very beginning, we wanted, like our family, we wanted to be known as a generous family. We wanted to be known as a family that loves people. That is, I mean, honestly, after this, it's that a family that stands by their convictions and doesn't waver on them, no matter what, but then loves people no matter what. So looking at your reputation or the trail, are people hurt by you? Are they angry with you? Are they wary of you? You have the opportunity to change that. Let your past be the past, and that continues to come up, but it's such a strong, for me, it's such a strong thing for me to stand by, to let your past be the past. Quit letting your past hold you back from your future. Leave a legacy of life, love well, and live steadfast. 1 Corinthians 15:8 says, "So, my dear brothers and sisters, be strong and immovable. Always work enthusiastically for the Lord, for you know that nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless." Nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless. Daniel didn't lie to please people. So he was trusted by even those who disagreed with him and his lifestyle and what he stood for. He didn't tell people what they wanted to hear. He told them the truth. But in order for people to still respect him, he had to do it out of a place of love. I messed up. Forgot to tell you guys point one and where we were there. That one was the writing on the wall. Point one, writing on the wall at the start of Daniel. Number two is the finger of God. In Luke 11, he says that he cast out demons with the finger of God, referring to the power of the Holy Spirit in Matthew 12. The finger of God was writing a warning to the Babylonian leaders in this moment. He was writing out a warning. Daniel 5:13 through 21. So Daniel was brought in before the king. The king asked him, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles brought from Judah by my predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar? I have heard that you have the spirit of the gods within you, and that you are filled with insight, understanding, and wisdom. My wise men and enchanters have tried to read the words on the wall and tell me their meaning, but they cannot do it. I am told that you gave interpretations and solved difficult problems. If you can read these words and tell me their meaning, you'll be clothed in purple robes of royal honor, and you'll be given a golden chain placed around your neck. You'll be the third highest ruler in the kingdom." Daniel answered the king, "Keep your gifts and give them to someone else, but I will tell you what the writing means." Keep your gifts or give them to somebody else. Daniel was not living life for what he could get out of it. He was living life to advance the kingdom. He was living life to grow just the understanding of who God was, that they had their gods, but who God was. He was not doing anything selfishly. To me, it's we live in a world of what can you do for me or what have you done for me. It used to be lately, now it feels like today. What have you done for me today? What if we were a people who helped people and expected nothing in return? What if we were a people who were so giving, but yet never looked for anything in return? Starting Friday Groceries, it was probably 10 years ago now. It's an outreach at Guts that every Friday they give away groceries. And it all came from, we took a missions trip to Baton Rouge and worked in a dream center. And then I was riding with Dad in his truck, and we're just looking around, and I said, why don't we do this? Come to find out, Tulsa was like the 6th hungriest city in the country, and that didn't make sense to me because we were the 501c3 capital of America, but yet they're still one of the hungriest. And it was something that started out with, I didn't really know what to expect first week. And we had 35 families show up, and now it's thousands of families a month get fed, and they get groceries throughout the month. And honestly, it's such a cool place because you're helping people who you're almost forced because of the place that they're in, that you're expecting nothing back from them. And honestly, I think when you serve, you get so much more than you give. But it's also that you're in a place of true love. I want to help you here. I want to give you this, but I don't want anything in return. I think what's hard is the people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, we can't say that, I would guess we can't say, I don't want anything in return. It's, no, I'm going to do something for you, so then you owe me. And then when I need something, you're going to do something for me. Instead of doing it out of a place of love, we do it out of a place of either self-preservation or advancement in life. Verse 18, Your Majesty, the Most High God gave sovereignty, majesty, glory, and honor to your predecessor Nebuchadnezzar. He made him so great that people of all races and nations and languages trembled before him in fear. He killed those he wanted to kill and spared those he wanted to spare. He honored those he wanted to honor and disgraced those he wanted to disgrace. But when your heart and mind were puffed up with arrogance, but when his heart and mind were puffed up with arrogance, he was brought down from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven from human society. He was given the mind of a wild animal, and he lived among the wild donkeys. He ate grass like a cow, and he was drenched with the dew of heavens until he learned that the Most High God rules over kingdoms of the world and appoints anyone he desires to rule over them. So essentially at this point, he is giving the king a history lesson about his granddad. And he's saying that he was in this position because God appointed him to be, but then he got puffed up in his mind and his heart, and then he was humbled very quickly. But like most people who think that they're great and then they're gone, what did they leave? If you're not truly great, what do you leave? This is for me, writing this, all I could think about was the legacy. Like what, and again, writing it, I'm thinking, for me, what legacy do I want to leave? Do I want to be someone who is known to be selfish and hard and cared about people when I wanted to and only helped people when they could do something? That's not what I want at all. I want to be known as someone who is generous, as someone who loves, as someone who is always there to lend a helping hand. Those who, for me, I have friends, and I can accredit this to my father, but if they need anything, the answer is yes. What I want to be able to say is if anybody needs anything, the answer is yes. But it makes me look inside and it's like, is that really the case? Like, for instance, Grant has been one of my best friends for a long, long time. And some would say I'm friends with him so he doesn't tell some of my stories. But not going to confirm or deny that. But no, it's that he is a guy that there are qualities about Grant that I can only strive to achieve. Grant is my ride or die friend. If I called him at any moment and said, hey, let's go here, he would say, it would obviously be yes. Like if we said, hey, let's go to Dallas and we want to go right now, I'd be like, is it cool if I stop and get a change of clothes? If not, no big deal, but let's roll. And that to me is someone that I want to be. If you're going through something, I want to go through it with you. Because our world is currently set up to be so isolated that it's unhealthy. It's scary. Social media has us tricked to think that we have people in our lives and that we're not isolated. But yet, in all reality, that there's nothing social about social media. Just because someone writes a comment does not mean, it baffles me. I personally am not a fan of social media. It is a necessity at this point, unfortunately. But people truly put the value on themselves based off of how many likes they get. What? Here's how bad it is. I don't ever like any picture, so it's hard for me to even understand that. Like, it could be my kids, and I love my kids more than anything. I just don't think to double-click the picture. That's just me. Call me crazy, call me old, whatever. I get it. I'm 33, the year of resurrection, just so you guys know. I'm going to skip the other part. We're going to go straight to the resurrection. But no, it's for me, I get it, I understand it, but I don't like it. But it's also, I've seen where it controls people's lives, and that's baffling to me. You should know, because of who you are and where you stand, what you stand for, who you are. You should know, because of what our Heavenly Father wrote about us in this book, you should know who you are. Quit worrying about what people think. If that's the case, then you're going to tell people what they want to hear. You're only going to help influential people because it's what you can get from them. But when it comes down to it, no, we're supposed to live by our convictions, stand by those, but do it in a place of love. So through this history lesson, Nebuchadnezzar found out that there is a God and it wasn't him. While that sounds extremely dramatic, I think a lot of us subconsciously, in moments, think that we are God, think that we have control, think that if I just work harder, then this is going to work out. But when it comes down to it, God is solely in control of your destiny. And that is very, very good news. Because we have many are the plans of man's heart, but God directs his steps. His plans are if we could see what God had for each of us individually, I think it would blow our minds. All it takes is for us to yield to him and then live out our convictions in love. He also learned that the Most High God rules over the kingdoms of the world and appoints anyone he desires to rule over them. What Daniel is really saying is here, don't lose your mind when things get bad. God is still God and bigger than any issue. No matter what issue you're dealing with, there is good news, and it's God is still God. That has not changed. And he's bigger than whatever you're dealing with. It's just like the great philosopher Notorious B.I.G., which Charleston now asks for by name, and I've never been so proud. She sang the first part, or the chorus of Hypnotize, and I once again melted in front of her. I'm like, thank you. We've made it. We've made it. My daughter is currently quoting the second greatest rapper on earth, and that there's no Tupac and Biggie argument. Let's get real here. But it's a little side note. The man pulled off a nose ring is all I'm saying. But it's more money, more problems. So the problem is we think that if we're able to acquire more money, that will fix all of our issues. If we're able to acquire more stuff, I won't feel empty inside anymore. If I just have nicer things, then people are going to like me and they're going to want to be around me, and then I'm not going to be so lonely. If I can just get my bank account to a certain number, then everything will be okay. I want to let you know none of that is going to fix whatever you're dealing with. If you are not okay with you, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. You're still going to have that issue. Because when it comes down to it, when you lay in bed at night, you can't ever shut your mind off. So you have to deal with you. It's interesting because I'll get off here. It'll be a Tuesday night. We'll get done. I'll get home. We finish load out, and we'll just talk. And I'm like, so how was it? To Cass, she is a loving wife, so she tells me the good things. The next day, she brings reality down. But in that moment, she's very sweet and kind. And but when it comes down to it, I'm gonna be my own biggest critic. I know my issues. I know what I deal with. If I am not okay with me, then it doesn't matter what I have. It's not going to amount to anything. Money's not going to fix your issues. Friends aren't going to fix your issues. New clothes aren't going to fix your issues. A new car isn't going to fix anything. Only Jesus can fix that. So the moment that we yield our life to Him, the moment we give our life and submit our life to Him, we start to realize who we are and how we can be. He also learned that God still rules over kingdoms. In John 16:33, Jesus said, I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you'll have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I've overcome the world. You're going to deal with things. You are going to have trials. You're going to have stuff that goes on. You're going to have storms. But you still can have peace in that storm knowing that Jesus has already overcome it. Point 3, learning the lessons of life. In verse 22, so after he gives them the writing happens, they freak out. Daniel's called in. Daniel then basically gives him a history lesson on what happened before. In verse 22, he says, you are his successor, O Belshazzar, and you knew all this, yet you have not humbled yourself. What if we were wise enough to see the issues and slip-ups and mistakes that people made in front of us where we didn't make that? What if? What if you saw, when faced in that moment of temptation, you saw what that decision did in someone else's life, that all of a sudden you don't have to make that decision. You don't have to make that same mistake. Yet some of us are proud to believe that we would make the same mistakes as somebody else. Learning from others' mistakes is not only wise, but it also saves you heartache. It saves you serious pain. I mean, just look at people that made the decision to step out on their wife. You see the result of it, but yet people still do it. People still deal with that. You look at people who made a decision and then became an addict due to that decision. You see what it's done to their life, but yet you still have that temptation and think through that process. It might be fun for a night, but I can tell you, rehab's not fun. To me, stop it before you start. Dad said something when I was a kid, and I used to make fun of him because he would say, but he said, 0% of people that drink ever become alcoholics. And I'm like, no, duh. Like, he's telling me this in high school while I'm still finding my way, building my testimony. That's what church people say. I'm just building my testimony. And, but no, I look at it now, and it's so true. And it's so, that's a wise statement. Why open the door for something? Why dabble in a controlled substance knowing that there is even the chance of it wrecking your life? Learning from others' mistakes. It might save you from making a huge mistake that will injure people that you love. King Belshazzar did not learn from others. So real quickly, and I'm going to ask Kat to come up now. Verse 23. For you have proudly defied the Lord of heaven and have had these cups from his temple brought before you. You and your nobles and your wives and your concubines have been drinking wine from them, praising gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, gods that neither see nor hear nor know anything at all. But you have not honored the God who gives you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God has sent this hand to write this message. This message that was written, many, tekel, and parson. This is what the words mean. Many means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. Tekel means weighted. You have been weighted on the balances and have not measured up. Parson means divided. Your kingdom will be divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. So the message literally read, numbered, weighted, divided. Again, looking at it for me, the last thing that I want is your days are numbered and that your reign is numbered and it's coming to an end. It's weighted. Everything you've done has been weighted and it doesn't measure up. And then everything that you worked for, everything that you fought and did, everything that you did to gather all of this land will be divided and given to your enemies. He's essentially here saying that God controls your destiny. Honor him. That's the same thing I want to say to you tonight. God controls your destiny. Honor him in it. He will give you life and endless possibilities. Don't make the same mistakes that the people before you made. Humble your heart and put God first. He literally knew what had happened. He had saw firsthand what had happened to King Nebuchadnezzar and still had a party because he thought that he was untouchable. Pulling the cups in from the temple is just mocking God, is all he's doing. And then worshiping gods of material things, who Daniel says in here, they can't see or hear or do anything about it. They don't know anything. It's metal. Humble your heart and put God first, for he alone gives you breath and life. The prophecy says your days are numbered, your time is weighted, measured. Did you waste it? What did you do with the tools and the call that God's put on your life? What did you do with the opportunities in life that came up? What did you do with everything that God has blessed you with? What did you do with that? Does it measure up? Because our days are numbered. Psalm 90:12 says, so teach us to number our days, that we may present to you a heart of wisdom. So then right after this happens, everything that's prophesied comes true. The Medes and the Persians pulled off an incredible upset and had a military victory and defeated Babylon. The king's days are numbered. So are mine. So are yours. The Bible says only God knows your days. So we have to live like there's no tomorrow. We have to. We don't know what tomorrow holds. So live today. Live in the moment. I think the curse of our generation and of our society and of our world right now is that we're never content. We're never okay in the stage that we're at. When you're in high school, all you can do, you can't enjoy high school because all you want is to get to college. And then you get to college and you can't enjoy college because all you care about is getting out and getting a job. And then you get a job and you realize how not awesome it is and how great high school and college were. But then you start dating and all you want to do is be engaged. Then you get engaged and all you want to do is be married. And at some point you're just trying to fit something into the God-sized hole that's in your heart that makes you feel empty. Live in the moment, live in the day, because tomorrow's not promised. Luke 12:19, and I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for? Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. Don't waste your life. You have one of them, and it is so short. Your days are numbered. Make them count. When we think that we have more than we need of something, most of the time we waste it. You might think that you have more days and weeks and years than you need. That is not the case. Your days are numbered. Don't waste it. And as I close, I'm going to ask the band to come up now. But every morning when you wake up, decide that today is the day that I'm going to live with purpose. Make the decision every day to live with a sense of purpose. Live with an urgency. The first way you can do this is putting first things first and putting last things last. Putting first things first in life and last things last. Prioritize the things in your life. It's okay to say no. You might not have time for it. Yeah, I need to do this, but I also want to do that. Prioritize your life. Live with a sense of purpose. Psalm 39:4, Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered, how fleeting my life is. The handwriting is still on the wall for us. What Daniel read is just as relevant now as it was then. How are you living your life? Catch that don't make the same mistakes that people made before you. As I've had kids, my mindset has changed where I am not trying to advance in life for me anymore. I'm advancing so that my kids have a foundation to then launch from. That they don't have to go through the same things I went through. They don't have to have the same experience, the negative experiences that I had, or make the same mistakes that I did. Because I'm setting that foundation. Don't waste your life. Days are numbered. Don't waste it. There are hurting people. There are people who need Jesus. Don't waste another day. Let's pray.